What happens when we die? Our body stops functioning, our senses fade, or is there something beyond the biological functions? Many have reported having experiences that challenge our understanding of death. People who are on the brink of death describe sensations beyond scientific explanation. Bright lights, encounters with deceased loved ones, and the unmistakable feeling of being in another plane of existence. Today, we will explore accounts that will challenge your perception of death. Real documented stories that make us question what truly happens when we pass on. Stay with us and uncover the mystery. Welcome to Midnight Daily News. I'm John Blackwood, and here we unravel the mysteries of the unknown, the unexplained, and the supernatural. In today's episode, we will explore near-death experiences and the stories of people who crossed into the afterlife and returned to tell their tales. Prepare yourself to discover astonishing cases that will challenge your beliefs, even if you're a skeptic. Some real cases will definitely leave you at least intrigued. Claire Moreau, Paradise Before the Return. Claire Moreau, a French teacher, had a life-changing experience during the birth of her daughter. Her pregnancy was already considered high risk due to a fall she had while descending stairs at 8 months pregnant. During childbirth, complications arose, and the operating room became tense. The doctors struggled to stabilize her, but at one point, her vital signs ceased. It was then that Claire experienced something inexplicable. She felt her body being pulled forcefully toward a bright, golden light. Suddenly, she found herself in a place of indescribable beauty, where a fragrant breeze made the air light and welcoming. People dressed in white walked serenely, exchanging affectionate words, while a feeling of absolute peace enveloped her. As she began to comprehend the magnitude of the environment, a firm yet tender voice said, "It's not your time yet. Your daughter needs you." At that moment, she felt an abrupt pull and returned to her body, waking up in the operating room, surrounded by panting doctors and stunned nurses. Later, one of the nurses revealed that, for several minutes, Claire had been considered dead, as her vital signs had completely disappeared. For years, Claire kept this experience a secret until, in 2012, she decided to share it for the first time in an interview for a renowned French television show. Could it have been just a delusion caused by the stress of childbirth, or a brief journey to the afterlife? Anita Moorjani, the unexplained healing. Anita Moorjani was diagnosed with cancer in 2002 and underwent chemotherapy for 4 years. However, after that period, her body stopped responding to treatment, and the cancer cells spread rapidly. In a terminal state, with organ failure, the doctors informed her family that she had only a few hours left to live. Her body could no longer fight the disease. While hospitalized, Anita experienced an unimaginable near-death experience. She reported being enveloped by a warm and welcoming light and encountered her best friend, who had died of cancer. During her life, Anita had not been able to be present for her friend's final moments, which caused her deep sorrow. However, upon meeting her again in this experience, she felt immense relief. In that state, Anita realized she was floating in a field of loving energy, free from any pain. She understood that her illness was the result of unresolved fears and traumas. At that moment, she realized she had a choice: move on or return to life. The place she was in was so beautiful and peaceful that she didn't want to leave, but she clearly felt that, if she returned, her body would be healed. When she woke up in the hospital, Anita realized she could see everything happening in the operating room, even though she was in a coma. She was able to describe the people present and the procedures performed on her. When she saw the doctor, she immediately recognized him, surprising him, as she hadn't regained consciousness in the operating room nor met him before. What happened next defied all medical logic. Within a few days, Anita's condition began to improve dramatically. her recovery was so rapid that she was soon discharged from the hospital. To everyone's surprise, tests confirmed there was no trace of cancer in her body. The doctors couldn't explain what had happened. Anita Moorjani's story continues to be one of the most enigmatic cases of spontaneous healing, challenging traditional medicine and raising questions about the power of the mind, spirituality, and near-death experiences. Colton Burpo, the boy who saw heaven. Colton Burpo was only 3 years old when his appendix burst, spreading a severe infection throughout his body. His parents, Tom and Sonia Burpo, rushed him to the hospital, where the doctors feared the worst. The surgery was successful, and the family was able to take him home. However, it was only months later that they discovered something that would change their lives forever. Little Colton began to report, in astonishing detail, that he had visited heaven during the surgery. The first person he said he saw was Jesus, describing him in a white robe with marks on his hands and feet. He also mentioned angels and a man he had never seen before. His deceased grandfather, Pop. What was most surprising was that Colton described his grandfather with startling accuracy, despite never having seen pictures of him as a young man. His father was shocked, as he had never told his son about Pop, who had passed away when Tom was still a child. But the most emotional revelation came when Colton asked his mother about his other sister. Sonia was confused, as she knew she only had 2 children, Cassie and Colton. It was then that the boy said, "Mommy, I have 2 sisters. You had a baby that died in your belly." The mother was shocked, as she had never told Colton about a miscarriage she had years earlier. How could he know this? According to Colton, his sister herself told him during his experience in heaven. Colton Burpo's account was so impactful that the family decided to share it with the world. The inspiring story became a best-selling book called Heaven is for Real, which was later adapted into a movie, touching millions of people around the world. And what about you? What do you think of these stories so far? Are they just illusions of the brain, or evidence of something much greater? It is undeniable that so far, the 3 cases presented defy logic and leave us intrigued. Leave a like and comment below with your opinion. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now for more fascinating stories like these. Well, but it's not over yet. Let's move on to 2 more cases that will surprise you. Christine Stein, a witness to her own resurrection. Christine Stein, a young woman who suffered a severe car accident, had to be urgently taken to the hospital. Her condition was critical. She had internal bleeding and a large cut on her aorta. The doctors worked tirelessly to control the bleeding near her heart when, suddenly, her heart stopped beating. It was at that moment that Christine describes experiencing something inexplicable. She says she saw herself outside her own body, observing the surgery from above the operating table. She could see every detail with extreme precision. She heard the doctors talking, noticed the anguish in their faces, and even witnessed a surgical instrument fall to the floor. At the same time, she reports being projected to a different place, full of light and indescribable beauty. Christine said, "This place I ended up in was like Earth, but the colors were brighter and more welcoming. The ground felt like cotton, and I know that because I wasn't wearing shoes." Amidst that celestial scene, she heard someone calling her name. Looking toward the voices, she saw 2 people walking toward her. They were her grandparents, whom she only knew from photographs, as they had passed away many years before. Meanwhile, in the operating room, the medical team fought to reverse the cardiac arrest. The lead surgeon and his team used several methods to stabilize her vital signs. At one point, Christine clearly heard one of the doctors say, "We did it. We brought the girl back to life." After about 2 hours, the surgery was completed. When she woke up, Christine surprised the team by waking up crying, something uncommon for patients in her condition. She then described in great detail everything she had seen and heard while unconscious. The doctors were shocked. How could she know all of that if her body had technically been dead? Without hesitation, Christine asserts that what she lived through was not a dream. Everything was real. Somehow, I really was there, she declared. Her story became yet another case that challenges the understanding of science and raises questions about what happens beyond life. Eben Alexander, the skeptic who changed his mind. Eben Alexander, a renowned neurosurgeon, spent his life disbelieving in spiritual experiences. For him, consciousness was simply a product of the brain and nothing more. Death, in his view, meant the absolute end of existence. However, in 2008, everything changed drastically. At 54 years old, Alexander contracted a rare form of bacterial meningitis and, just hours later, fell into a deep coma. He remained in that state for 7 days while his brain was completely inactive. During this period, he claimed to have had the most unbelievable experience a person could have. In his account, he describes that, on his journey, there was no body, only his consciousness. He couldn't remember anything from his personal life, his children, or who he was. Initially, he was taken to a dark and muddy environment, but later arrived at a magnificent place, a vast valley, full of greenery, flowers, and butterflies. In this place, he encountered a radiant spirit, a woman with wings wearing simple clothing, who guided him through celestial landscapes. The beauty of the place was indescribable, and the feeling of pure love was overwhelming. When he awoke from the coma, Alexander was no longer the same man. The staunch skeptic had become a believer in the idea that consciousness survives death. For 2 years, he tried to find a scientific explanation for what had happened to him, but came to the conclusion that there was no rational way to explain his experience. According to him, it was neither a dream nor an hallucination. So intense was his account that he decided to write a book to share his experience. Proof of Heaven, a neurosurgeon's journey into the afterlife. Today, Alexander is one of the most well-known voices in the field of near-death experiences, advocating that consciousness transcends the physical body and continues beyond earthly existence. What do you think of all this? Do our souls really have a journey beyond what we can see? Or is it just a mystery that science hasn't explained yet? Leave your comment below. I want to know if you've ever experienced something similar, or if you know anyone who has gone through such experiences. Who knows, maybe we're all more connected to the beyond than we realize. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any episode, every Friday at 8 p.m. with new mysterious and supernatural stories. I'm John Blackwood, and you've just watched another episode of Midnight Daily News. See you next time, with more enigmas and secrets from the unknown. Until then.